Hello everyone! This hour on Verbling, the next in my Hot Topic series, we're doing part 2 of our Hot Topic Personality, in which we're reading about a scientific study on spiders and how they seem personalities, and how this helps us understand the origin of our human personalities. We're going to talk about the implications of that and the vocabulary and much more in just a minute. First, a little bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. Here are 3 quick rules to help you participate in my class. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up, which means turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. Tune in to the new words that you're learning. When you are speaking, use them actively so I can give you feedback. And finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. If you open up the link in the chat window, you will see this graphic on the front page, our animals with personalities. We've discussed this. We'll be doing a little personality test of our own. But you'll notice on the next page you've got a table of contents. So what you can do, if you're joining us just now, is click on Article, Lives of Social Spiders. We've read the first page of this short article, and we're on the second page. Right here, I think, is where we left off. So I think what we're going to do is finish reading first, and then after we finish reading, we're going to talk about what this means, whether we agree, disagree, and what the implications are for human personality, things like that. Let's say just a quick hello to Nora, who's joining us right now. Hello, Nora. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm all right. You are Nora from Saudi Arabia, am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I remember you. I remember you. All right. Nora, I don't know if I have the link there. Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I have it. I opened it already.
Okay, fantastic. So, let me see. Could someone just bring Nora up to date on what we've read about so far? We just started the reading, but could someone fill her in on the details? How would you summarize what we've read so far for Nora before we continue? No one? Really? Nobody? Go for it, Yuki.
Okay.
What's the gist that she should know about before reading?
Here, it is written about the animals' characters, and firstly, it is written about spiders. There are many kinds of spiders. Majority of these have very like to conduct soul alone, but
so most of them are loners. That's the word we use.
Most are loners, but some species have a social life to exploit to pool their powers with others, and there are many kind of animals who has different characters. So
let me just add one key idea there. One key idea. In the experiment with spiders, one thing that researchers
just wait. I'm about to saying about it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And the key, but key issue is that more you are more you have more you are more you
the more you do what?
The more you build a social network,
right.
The more you have a special character.
Specialized.
More more you will specialize, your individuality and your personality would
Would be heightened.
be heightened.
Absolutely. So far, what we've gotten in the article is that researchers have noticed the longer these special spiders are in a social community, the more they seem to have their own personality, the more their own individual um, idiosyncrasies, in other words, individual behavior, seems to come out. So that's where we began in the article. Why don't we pick up there? I think Jason, you were the next to read, so we'll go Jason, Giuseppe, and then Nora. We'll pick it up with you. Okay. So let's go to page. It's what page? It's page 6 in the document, and I'll share my screen with you just one more time here so you can see where we are. It might be better to open this on your computer because it's hard for me to get the text very big on the screen. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger though. It's a little bit difficult for various reasons. Okay, Jason, why don't you pick it up there on the top of page 6 in blue? See where we are?
Yes, I see it. In other words, far from fostering behavioral conformity, a predictable social life accentuated each spider's quirks and personal life and personal style, rather as characters in the sitcom.
Right. Just quickly, what's a sitcom? Do you know?
Yeah, it's a short movie about which talk about
Is it a movie? A movie? Well, maybe, yeah, it could be. Yeah. I usually think of it as television, but yeah, it could be. You're right. That's true. So sit stands for situation. Com stands for comedy. So it's a situation comedy, a comedy based on funny situations, just to be clear. So these spiders develop characters. They're just like in a sitcom. And tell us, what kind of sitcom characters do we have, Jason?
The god girl, the huckster, and the lovable buffon rise evermore to type which every passing loves tracked with.
Yeah, when you watch an old sitcom, like the 1970s sitcoms, they always had recorded laughter in the background, whether the jokes were funny or not. So you can kind of picture this, a bunch of spiders hanging out, talking about observational comedy, the goth spider, the lovable clown spider, just like people in a sitcom. Can you picture that, Jason? Are you picturing that? Maybe not.
No. If I can see a picture of spider hanging out, I think it's a little bit weird to imagine. But,
it's weird to imagine a goth girl spider wearing dark makeup, black clothes. It's difficult. Really?
Yes.
Okay, keep going there, Jason. Let's find out a little bit more. We've got Dr. Prout here.
The longer the spiders were with the same individuals, the stronger that their personalities became, and the more different they become from each other, and the more different they become from each other. Dr. Prout says. The aggressive one became much more aggressive, the docile one more docile. The consistency of their behaviors also mounted with times, he said, to the point where they seemed almost rigid.
Okay, is that clear? What is the point that he's making?
Yes, for me, yes, it's very clear when we stay in the same group, our personality will develop and become stronger than it used to be.
Right, and he makes this point at the end here, to the point where they seem almost rigid. So they don't just become stronger, they seem to become stronger until they're almost unable to change. So that's quite significant. In the beginning, they seem to have no personality. The longer they are together, the more distinct they are, and the less likely they are to change, as if they were always this way. They become rigid. So that means if you put them in another group, they're still behaving the same way, at least in the beginning. All right, well, we're almost done this part. So Giuseppe, why don't you pick it up? Let me just see how much we have here. Yeah, okay, fine. I was just taking a look. We've got another page. So Giuseppe, why don't you pick it up here? Maybe we can pick it up this part here. Go for it.
The researchers view the development of stronger personalities as the behavioral versions of a so-called niche partitioning, carving out a specialty in a crowded, competitive world. The concept is most familiarly applied to the study of animal foraging practices.
We got to define foraging. If we don't define that, what is foraging? Is that clear or not?
No, for me no.
Pigs forage for truffles in the forest.
Ah, okay.
So what would be a good substitute word, Giuseppe, for forage?
Feed.
Yeah, look for food.
Look for food. Feeding. Yeah.
Okay.
For example, when stickleback fish are feeding in densely populated waters, Dr. Laskowski said, some will specialize on critters in rocks, others on little plankton. By adopting a distinctive foraging tactics, you don't have to fight all the time, she said. You have your own little niche. For the spiders, behavioral partitioning appears to serve as the foundation of their sociality hence of a very extraordinary success. The researchers studied
I have no idea how to say that. Stegodiphosaurus, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea. Some kind of spider. Some kind of spider.
Small social spiders that live in colonies of 20 to 300 individuals, weaving huge communal webs the size of automobiles over the trees and the bushes over the Kalahari in southern Africa. The spider communities gain their strength through a division of labor, with some members specializing in web repair, some in attacking and subduing prey.
Subduing prey, right. So this is the Kalahari Desert, right? The Kalahari.
Yeah.
All right. So the key word here is niche. Niche partitioning. So Giuseppe, what is the niche that they're talking about here? Let's make sure that's clear. By doing what these animals can find their niche? What's the niche? Is that clear?
Probably niche in this context means the place where they live.
Is the niche a physical place, or is it more of a virtual? Is it about their behavior, or is it about where they live?
It's about the behavior, sorry.
Yeah, of course. That's it, right. It's a behavioral niche.
Because they live together in order to be competitive. in to the influence the others, something like that.
Is everyone familiar with Darwin in the class?
Yes, of course.
Well, right away we've got an idea which seems to be a little bit counterintuitive if we think about Darwin. Yuki, what did Darwin teach us? How do animals survive and develop and evolve? Remember
Uh,
the key phrase that everyone says about Darwin? Survival.
yes. Main
Survival
idea.
of fittest.
Sorry.
Yes, that's it. Survival of the fittest.
Main idea of the theory of Darwin is the evolution.
Right.
Darwinism. They insist that we have been evolved because we have to survive. In the process of survival, we have developed. We have evolved. So that's why before big that's why before big animals ruled the world, but now only mammal survived. Dinosaur extinct.
Went extinct.
Yes.
Went
Dinosaur.
Went extinct.
Dinosaur went extinct because they couldn't adapt to the climate. So they couldn't evolve, but mammal could evolve to adapt to the environment. So,
for example, yeah. So this paragraph or this little section is interesting because
very interesting.
It seems at first to almost contradict Darwinism. Seems to, in a way, because the idea of, in order for them to survive, they have to stop fighting. So I don't think it does contradict Darwinism, but at first sight, when you first read it, you might think it does. I personally don't think it does, because I think it's, as a species, they are still in conflict with other species. But amongst themselves, they have to stop fighting. So this niche that Giuseppe was reading about is this niche where they're able to do something without competing with each other. They have to cooperate. It's very interesting.
Interesting. I found this article is interesting because in this article, scientists pay attention to the social role of individuals. If Darwin pay more attention to the individual evolution, there it is said about the role of every individual in the society, and they have to survive to. They have to survive being more individual, more searching for niche market. Niche market.
Right.
So it is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole idea of capitalism in market society, we have something called social Darwinism. So
social Darwinism.
Social Darwinism, and a lot of the arguments in social Darwinism, you know, it's really good to evaluate them in terms of actual Darwinism, because social Darwinism seems to suggest that individuals are in conflict with each other, and that you're leveraging antipathies, you're leveraging selfish interests. That's what social Darwinism often talks about, and it's used in theories, economic theories, and others. But if we look at nature, we seem to have a problem, because that's not what seems to be happening in nature, at least in this study. The species is not in conflict with itself. because it's not, I mean, they're building communal webs. That's fascinating. How do they know what the other spiders are doing? They don't talk to each other. How do they know? So it's interesting that for them to survive as a species, they have to cooperate. And that really goes against a lot of the theories you'll see in economics about social Darwinism, what's called social Darwinism. In fact, I don't think it's Darwinism at all, but we can talk about that in a minute. Well, Nora, let's give you a chance to read as well. The vocabulary here is a little bit difficult, but do ask me questions along the way if you have any questions. Can you pick it up here at the bottom?
Okay. Still others tend to the young. Okay, let's read from the file.
Regurgitating.
Okay. Still others tend to the young, regurgitating liquefied food right into an offspring's mouth and eventually liquefying their own bodies to nourish the next generation.
Wait, we have to just clarify that. The spiders liquefy their own bodies to nourish the next generation. Is that clear what they're doing? Is that part clear or not? Liquefying. Nora? Clear? Not clear.
No, not clear.
The spiders, when they digest outside of their bodies.
They become liquid. Yeah.
They become liquid, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They digest. So here, in order for the species to survive, the spiders let themselves be eaten by the young. They commit suicide. They let their kids eat them.
Disgusting.
It's pretty disgusting, yeah. It's a good thing you're not a spider.
Yeah.
It's good to be a person, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, keep going.
To nourish the next generation. Through team efforts and professional expertise, the social spiders thrive. You can capture much larger prey, Dr. Peart said. I've seen the skeletons of birds and rats in some of these colonies.
That's hard to believe, isn't it, by the way? Spiders are eating big things like birds and rats, or eating mammals.
Yeah, it's strange.
Social spiders thrive. What's a good synonym for thrive, Nora? What do you think? They don't just live, they thrive. Nora, do you know what that means?
Maybe flourish or...
Flourish. Yeah, that's it. They don't just live, they flourish. They live the good life.
Yeah.
And also this one here. They eat much larger prey. Prey in this context, what does it refer to? Is that clear?
Yeah, the things that they eat.
Exactly. When you hunt for prey. So you're the hunter, and the thing you're eating is the prey. Okay,
yeah.
just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, all right, keep going on the next page here.
Okay. But how to decide who gets which job? Among social insects like honeybees, case depends on age. Young bees work in the nursery. Older bees forage or defend the hive. For ants, what they are fed as larvae determines whether they end up as soldiers or workers. For the spiders, personality appears to dictate profession. Okay. Dr. Pritt and his colleagues have determined that the spiders in charge of defending the colony and capturing prey score high on tests of aggression, while those caring for the young are measurable more docile.
Docile. Measurably more docile.
Okay, docile. Yet the process of finding one's true spider calling is a gradual one and depends on an assessment of the needs of the larger spider society.
So, in other words, how did this part is talking about how different animals develop their personalities. So Nora, can you find one difference between the spiders and other animals?
Yeah, and spiders, yeah, they define their roles by personality, but in bees by age, for
Right.
example.
And
Yeah.
and with ants, it's what they're fed, what they eat.
Mm,
I'm not quite sure how that
understand.
works. So different animals have different ways to figure out their jobs. But with spiders, with this species of spiders, it really has to do with
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard that bees, they're born as queens or as workers.
uh-huh.
It's in their genes.
It's in their genes.
Yeah, and yeah, it's born as a queen, and they all know that she's queen.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
different.
But the lower caste, here it says caste depends on age. Do we know what caste means, by the way? Caste? Is that clear?
I don't know, maybe the worker.
Well, caste means social.
yellow hero.
What?
Sorry. Cast means hero. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
Selection.
Well,
Kind of
specifically, another way to say it might be
status. Yeah.
okay, status. Okay,
Status.
status. Yeah, but it's not
I-
just it's not something temporary. It's something that tends to be fixed. So,
Yeah.
like when we think of caste, we think of India, which is divided into castes. You can be born into a high caste or a low caste, and you tend to stay there all your life. So it's something similar to class. You can
Yeah.
be okay. So they have a social status, but it's a fixed status. It's caste. It's fixed. It doesn't change. So again, different species have different ways to give roles. But with spiders, apparently the roles are determined by personality more than anything else. Let me just read this next section to move it along, or we're going to run out of time here. And then I'll turn it back over for one more round to the rest of you. Let me do this section here. To gauge personality under stable versus shifting social settings, researchers used two tests. In the first, and by and large more successful, they simulated the approach of a predator by puffing air on the spiders through a bulb-topped syringe. So they blew air on the spiders, to which the spiders responded by playing pebble, huddling over and pulling in their legs. So in other words, when they felt threatened, they pretended to be a little rock. They would roll up in a ball. The time it took to emerge from stasis, the time it took for them to go back to normal, served as a measure of their boldness, and the differences could be dramatic. The boldest bounced back from the perceived threat after 4 or 5 seconds, while the shyest remained inert for 10 minutes or longer. So, some spiders are shy. Equally dramatic was the impact of social conditions on the boldness test. Stable spider groups, composed of 6 spiders that remained together for up to 4 weeks, showed the greatest variety between individuals, the greatest mix of bold and shy, as well as the highest individual consistency. The pebble playing times of the boldies, in other words, the amount of time they pretended to be rocks, grew shorter, while those of the timids, the shy ones, lengthened. So being in the group had in other words, being in the group had a profound effect on the individual personality of the spiders. I think that's the end of the article. Well, just about. Okay, there's a little bit more. So we're back to Yuki. Why don't you pick it up here? Let's see if we go around one more time. Keep going, Yuki.
Sorry.
See where we are with the blue?
Yes, among shifting spider groups, by contrast, the boldness score proved far less predictable, as though the spiders didn't quite know what was expected of them. The second test, using the leaf to mimic the touch of prey on the web, was less successful in ferreting
Ferreting out. Ferreting out.
ferreting out personality distinctions. Dr. Roskowski said, possibly because well-fed lab spiders showed little variation in eagerness to pursue for food.
Faux food. Faux food is faux is French, isn't it, Jason? Sometimes we like to use French words.
Yeah.
Artificial.
What does it mean, Jason?
Which word? Sorry.
Faux.
Four.
Yeah, F-A-U-X.
F-A-U-X.
Faked, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Second to last word there. Faux food. What kind of food would that be? False.
False, yeah.
Yeah. So fake food. So in other words, it was a little hard in the lab to get accurate results because they were trying to ferret out personality distinctions. A ferret is an animal. So if you're trying to ferret something out, you're acting like a ferret, digging in holes, trying to get something. So they were trying to ferret out personality distinctions. They were trying to discover, or they're trying to artificially produce personality distinctions, which was not easy, because the spiders in the lab, well, they ate well. They didn't have to be so extreme in their behavior because they were getting well fed. So they didn't show a lot of eagerness to pursue fake food. So it was a little hard to do the experiment. That's all that really means. Jason, why don't you continue here with Alison Bell?
Alison Bell, who study stickleback personality.
Who studies stickleback.
Who studies stickleback personality at the University of Illinois, says the spider work neatly illustrates the mix of plasticity and predilections that underlies personality.
Yeah, keep going.
I think it's such an appealing idea that social interactions could cause social niches, and it resonates with our own experience as humans, she said. When you go into a group, your behavior changes depending on the nature of that group, but it can only change so far.
Okay, and Giuseppe, why don't you finish it up for us, the end of the article?
Yes, soon after getting results from the experiments, Dr. Laskowski met with a group of friends she hadn't seen since graduating from high school a decade earlier. All of a sudden, I'm a high school kid again, she said. Just being in the social environment completely reinforced my old behaviors. It was my social niche, that's what I felt. The senior prom, the SATs.
The SATs?
The SATs. Thanks, but I'd much rather huddle.
Do you have any idea what those things are in the last sentence, Giuseppe? Any idea? This is very American. The prom? You know what the prom is?
The prom.
Anyone know what the prom is? This is an American thing. No?
Final party.
Yes.
It's the party you go to at the end of your last year of high school.
Dance party.
Yeah, but it's kind of the big deal because, you know, you're picking a girl, you're asking a girl out, sometimes maybe for the first time, and everyone's going to see you, so it's kind of a big deal. And there's a prom queen and king, so it's kind of a, I they still do this. I think it's kind of a bad idea, actually. But
I thought
anyway,
it was only in movies.
it's always in movies.
In this day, Americans rent a car and they go to a girl's house by car and pick up car and go to the party event place
And get really, really drunk, yeah.
yes, all the night they drink and dance.
Yeah, but they have to do it without the adults watching. And don't forget the movie Carrie. There's your famous prom movie.
Carrie, but in the end of the
They're all
movie,
gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you.
blood of pig blood. Yeah?
Yeah. I didn't see the remake, but that was in the 70s version.
I think originally is better.
Wasn't John Travolta in that movie? I know it's Sissy Spacek, but wasn't John Travolta?
Do you know it is directed by Joe Campeter?
By who?
No, I'm sorry. No, not by Joe Campeter. It is.
By the way, for those of you,
Polanski. No. Campeter. No, I'm sorry. That doesn't matter.
I don't know what you're saying, Yuki.
Ignore me, please. Sorry.
Anyway, check it out. 1970s movie about a senior prom that went very, very bad. It's a novel by Stephen King. It's a Stephen King novel. By the way, so prom is the dance you do at the end of your senior year of high school. SATs are the national exams, and the huddle is what you do in a football game. Like before you make a play, everyone gets together in a circle. The circle is called a huddle. So these are the things we associate with American high school. So the author is trying to say that it's some kind of a joke, but it's not very funny. So he's trying to remember the high school things. In other words, when you think back to the awkward time you spent in high school, right? I guess the author is saying I'd rather be in football and forget about the senior prom and the national exams, I suppose. Anyway, it's not a very funny joke. Here's the important thing. Let's go down here. So, some of this we've already talked about. Social spiders and solitary spiders. In the beginning, we had talked about what we think personality is. Well, let me ask you this. Is your idea of personality different now than it was before we read the article? Out of curiosity. Has anything occurred to you now that didn't occur to you before reading the article? So how has your definition of personality changed? Or is it still the same? Go ahead, Nora.
Yeah, I used to think that personality is the same. It's something fixed. But now, as I think about it, even for me, I think my personality differ from according to the people I'm with.
That's what the research seems to suggest too. That it's something that happens. By the way, in the beginning of class, I was mentioning the origins of the word personality. I didn't find the link to what that I'm looking for, but in the Greek, in the ancient Greek idea of what is it? I can't think of the word now. But anyway, the idea of the theater mask, it was absolutely a social construction. They understood that personality was something, at least in Greek theater, that you're wearing a mask. In fact, that's what the word meant, mask. So the ancient Greeks seem to be clued in on this idea that science is just telling us now. So it seems to be something which we can verify in the animal kingdom. So does that mean that it's not just a human phenomenon? So that's kind of interesting. What personality attributes, let's take a look at this one. What personality attributes did the researchers study in social spiders? Is that part clear? What did they look at in the spiders?
They look
Anyone?
at.
Go for it, Giuseppe.
They look at this case. They look at the spiders. in a group, how they act with the other spiders, or individually, or but the personality, they look at the aggressivity and
Aggressiveness. Yeah.
aggressiveness,
Right.
agreeableness.
What's that last one? Sorry. Agreeableness.
Agreeable. Yes, exactly.
Agreeableness. I don't know if that's a word. I'm not sure if that exists. Agreeableness. Maybe it does. What do you mean? You mean
They are sociable. They are.
You mean how cooperative they are?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because agreeable. Well, they use the word docile, docility, which is probably more or less what you're trying to say. Because I don't know if agreeableness is an actual word. Maybe it is. Yeah, docility, docile, which we usually think of as being kind of like what's the word? Like introverted. It kind of brings to mind that docile personality. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Giuseppe.
Yeah.
Submissive. That's what I'm looking for. Docile. Being submissive.
Submissive.
Yeah, for docile. If you're docile, you tend to be submissive.
Yeah. The researcher look at the personality and like submissive or docile, aggressivity.
Aggressiveness.
Aggressiveness. And they make some experiments, put the spiders alone to look at how they behave individually and in groups.
Right. So the personal attributes seem to be more about boldness, shyness, and you said agreeability. I'm trying to find the right word there. I would say cooperativeness, compliance. Like, do they agree with each other? Do they comply with each other? Something like that. So maybe those three things more than anything else. Okay. And I don't want to focus too much on the article. I want to talk about really what the article means. So actually, Nora, you kind of already talked about this one. One of the scientists in the article said when you go into a group, your behavior changes depending on the nature of the group, but it can only change so far. So you were kind of talking about this earlier. What does this mean in the context of spiders? Do you think this applies to people? Well, I want to talk more about people than spiders. This last part, it changes, but it only changes so far. That part, it's not really explained well in the article. She makes that statement but doesn't really justify it. So as a class, what do you think she means by it changes but it can only change so far? It's not really that clear, but what do you think? What do you think she means by that?
Can I?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay. It means that if animals, yeah, if animals behave in a group, these behavior depend on the nature of the group. But what scientists want to say here is that such a behavior, such a nature enlarged would be enlarged more if they conduct with group, if they communicate more with others. So such a tendency.
This kind of tendency.
This kind of tendency is seen in every animal's behavior. not depend from not depending on the nature of the group. So most important thing is if they with groups their nature enlarged will be enlarged.
So the group kind of augments something in the individual. Is that what you mean?
Individualness.
Yeah. Individual. We got to be careful. It's a little hard to differentiate these words. But here you would say individuality.
Individuality
Yeah.
would be enlarged, and they would be more special. Why? Because because it is more useful for them to survive.
It's more advantageous.
They can find more advantages being more individual. Finding a kind of niche that others cannot find.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to Nora, what you were saying.
So by being more individual, you have more possibility to survive.
Absolutely. Nora, you were saying that you now agree with some of what you read in the article. You said you think your behavior changes. I think everyone feels that way. You used to see it as fixed, but now you're thinking back and you see. So do you think that means that when we're in a group, even a small group, we try to find a particular niche, some way that helps us cooperate with the group? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like what are you saying? Yeah.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, finally, yes.
Jason, do you think this has implications for society as a whole? Remember, we talked a little bit about social Darwinism. You hear that a lot in business. You hear that a lot in politics, the survival of the fittest idea. Do you think this research has any implications for society in general? What do you think, Jason? In your opinion, of course. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, I think our behavior depends on who we are in the contact, usually in the day, who we are used to know.
It's a little hard to hear you. Can you get closer to the mic?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little hard, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you hear me? No?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I think our behavior depends on the group and where we are. If we are in touch with our behavior depends on which group on the kind of people who are in touch with.
Yeah.
And our behavior is grown by the group. But we have to. I think we have to keep our own behavior and personality when no matter the group who we are.
Why is that? You think that we should try to retain as much of our personality as possible and not change with the group? Is that right? Why do you think so?
Yeah, because if you want to, yeah, because you can go if you want to go into a group. You have to be yourself. You have to stay yourself. You can be another person.
There's an interesting phenomenon which I want to share with you if you haven't heard it, called groupthink. Does anyone know what that is? Have you heard of that before?
Groupthink.
Yeah, have you heard that before? I'll give you a link as well in the chat window. Groupthink. Take a look at this Wikipedia article if you want. I bring this up because I remember this term being used in the media after the 2003 invasion of Iraq, because in the media they kept saying, "Oh, it was because of groupthink." In other words, everyone kept asking, "Well, if there was no weapons of mass destruction, and everyone knew that it wasn't certain, why did everyone in the government say that it was and keep going along with this idea, which led to the invasion of another country? And now we're seeing, once again, disastrous results, once again, more than 10 years later. So why did everyone do it?" And the media kept throwing around this term, groupthink, which is the idea, the excuse that was given was that everyone in the government began to think alike because they were in a group. I'm just bringing it up because it reminds me of what Jason was saying. You need to keep your own personality intact when you're in the group. You can't sacrifice it entirely. And there's a good example of people who apparently, I mean, we have to decide whether or not we believe them, but apparently they were, in order to keep the group together, because they're in government and they're in a particular culture, in order to keep the group dynamic and the group cohesiveness intact, they had to agree with each other even if it made very little sense. So groupthink is a phenomenon. That's why I'm asking you, do you think that this research has implications for society? The first thing that comes to my mind is this idea of groupthink and all of the... Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, can I just add something?
Sure.
I don't think changing according to the group you're with means weakness in your character. I think that's normal phenomenon to change according to the group. For example, when I'm with my older sisters and with my uncles, I tend to be childish a little bit, irresponsible. But when I'm with my younger sisters, I tend to be more responsible, more wise. I have to be more
right, because
less crazy.
because maybe they need more of a role model if you're with the younger ones. So
yeah,
right?
I think it's normal. Yeah, I think it's normal thing to change according to the group.
Giuseppe, do you think it's easy to retain your own personality in a group?
Absolutely not.
What's the problem? Because I brought up groupthink because there's an extreme example of people who seem to sacrifice their judgment, and it led to serious results. What's the difficulty, do you think? I don't know. How can we? What's the difficulty? What can we keep in mind to make it easier? Maybe, I don't know. Not an easy question.
First of all, you have to be adaptable.
Mm-hmm. You have to be adaptable to situations.
To the situation, to the personality, to the other's personality. I used to work in a group, and it's quite difficult to have the leadership with the others, because everyone wants to be because you can face the person who wants to be transcendental, superior, doesn't listen, and so on. But it's kind of difficult to have a group like that.
It seems easier. It seems easier to agree than to disagree in general.
Generally, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that. I've worked for a lot of schools, and most of the schools are little particular, what do you call these, little private schools, not like Verbling. So Verbling's quite different, quite a different structure. But in these little private schools, I notice that you really can't have your own opinion. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to work online, because I got tired of having to agree with everyone, particularly if I don't think they're using the right methods and things like that. But there's a kind of invisible force that makes you agree and makes you say things that you really don't believe in, because it's just that's the way it seems to work. It reminds me of the famous self-help book from the 30s, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. You can't rule number one was like you can't criticize anyone. No matter how negative your criticism, you have to say it as a positive, which, people, it makes sense, but there's a thin line between changing something to be positive and losing the point that something might be really wrong. At least that's what my experience tells me. I don't know if you all share that experience or not.
Yeah. And sometimes when you speak up and say about it, you figure out that a lot of people agree with you, but they were silent. They were not saying anything about it.
Absolutely. So it takes someone to speak up, and then you see, that means that. So it's a hard to stand out, I guess, is the point. It's a little bit hard to dissent and stand out because someone's got to take the risk, and I think most people don't want to do it.
Yeah.
That's group thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a decision making by group. I thought that group thinking make you more make you less creative. Less feeling individual responsibility. So by this article that today we read, I was surprised because in animals world it works completely opposite. By behaving with group, they have more they become more individual. It is completely different, another opposite mechanism working. It surprised me.
It is surprising, and I think the main thing we should take away from this is the research is being done in animals, because it must mean that there's a genetic component of this, that's carried through to higher mammals like us. So it should call into question a lot of ideas about social evolution, about social Darwinism. That's why I keep thinking about it, because of the kinds of excuses you read in the media and in institutions. So this should at least make us question some of those assumptions. Listen, unfortunately, I have to get a train and leave. So I've got to stop, or I'm going to miss my train to teach in the other school. So we've got to stop here. But feel free to send me questions and comments about any of the things we've talked about. And also, I'm going to try to do these hot topic classes every Friday. So if there's a particular suggestion or article or topic you'd like to address, send me a suggestion, and we'll see if we can turn it into a lesson and discussion. Okay, keep that in mind. Send me a message through the Verbling message service. All right, so we've got to go. I'll be back Monday morning bright and early for our pronunciation class at 10 GMT, and the next business class, How to Make a First Impression, at 11 GMT. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you soon.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. See you.